So now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what wine is all about. Grapes, where they come from, and generally what they taste like. But just before we go into specifics on each individual grape, I'm going to give you a little bit of introduction about the anatomy of a grape, where that juice and that flavor comes from in the wine. So a grape is a fruit. We all know this. In that grape, as it grows, we get sugars, we get acid, and we get tannins, which are found in the skins on the outside. Tannins are very important, and we'll talk about a little bit more about them shortly. Acidity, sugar are the two most important things in the winemaking process. Acidity gives you freshness. The sugar is what we then ferment into alcohol. As a grape grows, the acidity level stays constant, the sugar level grows. We only pick the fruit when that sugar level is at optimum ripeness. What we then do is we take the grapes, we crush them in a press, so we break the skins, the juice comes out, and we then take that juice and ferment it. Now, the act of fermentation is when we add yeast, either man-made or wild. Man-made is where we directly influence the style and type of yeast to get a particular flavor, or wild is when we literally go, leave it alone, the natural yeast on the skins of the grape, start that fermentation. We leave it for a period of time. It can be anything from 7 days to 21, 30 days, depending on the grape, depending on what you're trying to do with it. And at the end of it, the sugar has all been fermented dry in most cases, which means all the sugar in the grape has been changed by the yeast into alcohol, and we have an alcoholic wine. Now again, depending on where the grapes come from, what type of grape it is, the level of alcohol will change. Cool climate, so think Germany, England, Austria, cool climate wines will have less sugar because they come from a region not quite so hot. Whereas grapes from South Africa, south of Spain, Sicily, these are big, hot, rich climates which create more sugar in the grapes and therefore potentially have a higher ABV or alcohol level. So some of the grapes we're going to talk about, you'll know about: Chardonnay, Riesling, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. But there's going to be some grape varieties which you won't have heard about, and these are the ones which really excite me. Yes, the noble varietals, the ones we know about, are fantastic, but it's the indigenous varieties which I absolutely love. Things like Caricanti, things like Timorraso, Sangiovese's from Italy. The list is endless. Look, there are thousands and thousands of grapes out there, and we're going to, over the next weeks, months, years, work our way through these grapes, have a little discussion about what they taste like, what sort of wines they're like. You can leave comments down below and we'll get back to you on everything you comment on. If you want to know more, just ask. We're here to help. So we'll move on and we'll start having a look at some individual grape varieties. So the first grape variety we're going to start with is one of those that everyone loves to hate. You guessed it, Chardonnay. Chardonnay is one of, in my opinion, the two queens of grapes, the other one being Riesling. Chardonnay is historically from France and most famously from Burgundy. So we're looking at the Côte de Beaune, Meursault, Pouligny-Monchais, Chassagne-Monchais, where Chardonnay is the only grape variety that can go into them. It's also very famously from Chablis and is one of the key grape varieties in Champagne. Now, the reason why I said we all love to hate it is because stylistically it can be really varied. In its truest form, which is unoaked, completely just as it comes out of the fermentation tanks, Chardonnay is fruity. It's got great acidity, so freshness, but it's got wonderful fruit, flavors like melon, mango, these ripe, sweet flavors. And this is the first problem, is that, as we've said before, when you taste wine, you don't taste flavor, you taste sensation, sweetness. You smell aromas. So when you get that slight hint of sugar, then the freshness of the acidity coming through, your nose gets confused because it then smells sweet fruit and it goes, ah, sweet. It's not. Most Chardonnays are made bone dry. It's just that a lot of the aromas create this sensation of sweet and rich. The next problem with Chardonnay is it really benefits from oak aging. And I say problem, we'll come on to that in a minute. Oak aging, as we've discussed in other episodes, is where we manipulate that juice of the grape and add more flavor to it. It's one of the only ways we can actually change the flavor of a variety. So either using American, French, or Slovenian oak, and whether it's new, first fill, second fill, third fill, it all changes the style of that juice. Now, big, buttery, new American oak really makes the wine big and rich, and this is where people love to hate it because it's really quite overpowering sometimes. All came about really from Australia in the 80s. They saw what America were doing, what France were doing. They said, we want to do that, we want to do it cheaply. So they broke down barrels, put them into big nets and dunked that into big containers. And the result was we got over oaking of the wine. Golden yellow wines which were too buttery, too sweet. Thankfully that's all gone now, and we've moved on from it, and actually people have moved back to having really fine wines. Foods matches for Chardonnay are fantastic with anything with a cream sauce. So the acidity and the cream works well together. Anything with butter through it. Fish, of course, brilliant. Pigeon and other game birds, fantastic with that meatiness of the flesh. If you like Chardonnay, there are a number of other grape varieties you may well be interested in as well. Have a look at Chenin Blanc. Again, you've got the lovely acidity, the freshness. You've got the flavor, that flavor profile of tropical fruit coming through. Absolutely fantastic. You can also look at aromatic wines, things like Viognier, Marsanne, which is slightly bigger and richer if you like that oat style. Fantastic, absolutely. So there's our first wine in the can, one of the queens of grapes, Chardonnay. If you think you don't like it, I beg you, go and try something different. Go and ask for something that's unoaked, because I guarantee you'll like it. Stay safe, guys. Remember, drink better wine.